Hey there, Danny here. Welcome to my ramblings. So if you learned anything from that challenge, great. Keep doing it. I'll give you another one at the end of this video. Um, there's been a lot of change in me with the road rage that I've told you about. Um, when I first started doing DoorDash 3 years ago, I was I was famous for cussing out other drivers and honking my horn at everybody and anybody that was screwing up. Um, People who would sit with me on the phone or who would be with me when I was outdoor dashing, they found it comical. They thought it was hysterical. And I knew that I had road rage pretty bad. Well, then I bought a Jeep Wrangler is not good on gas, and tires are outrageous. When you are out doing 1,000 miles plus a week, you're going to pick nails up and staples and all kinds of other things. You're going to be filling the holes of the tires and replacing them frequently. So I decided to buy a new car that was good on gas, had cheap tires, and had a great warranty. And I did my research. I was definitely looking for something in the subcompact range. And I decided to buy a 2020 Kia Rio because the tires were like $56 a piece. Whatever, I blow a tire out, I'm not going to care. Um, and gas, well, I average between 37 to 40 miles to the gallon of the thing. So it just made perfect sense. Um, I was sitting at an intersection waiting to turn onto the freeway. And there was a line of us. And there was a car that was not, they were trying to get over into going in the straight lane instead of making a left-hand turn like we were. And there was two of us that could turn left. Well, I was laying on my horn because I was behind the minivan. But I didn't think about this when I bought the Kia Rio, but it has a baby horn. So nobody listens to it. Nobody gets out of your way. They just kind of ignore you. So I'm sitting there and I'm not really paying attention to what's around me. I'm getting frustrated at this car, this minivan in front of me that is really just screwing this up. And it's rush hour. I'm in a big city, so it makes a big difference. And all of a sudden, there's this big lifted truck, full size truck behind me. And he laid on his horn and he had one of those spectacular loud ass horns. That minivan got out of the way real quick. I threw my hand out the window, waved at the guy to thank him, and we moved along. So I started to realize that being in the Jeep, I was higher up, so I could see in front of the cars in front of me of what was going on. Being in the subcompact, you really can't see anything. So I was discovering that I wasn't getting as irritated and frustrated with traffic. Because if I couldn't see what was going on, I couldn't get mad that somebody was screwing up. In the Jeep, I was high enough where I could see somebody screwing up and I was letting them know they were screwing up. So I stopped honking my horn nearly as much. And I started to work on my road rage. Now, I really don't have a lot of road rage. You might hear what the fuck comes out of my mouth every so often. What are you doing? Can we go? But it doesn't, it's, I make the statement and then I move along. So, if you've learned anything from the challenge last week, even if it's just a little bit, keep going with it. Tonight, I would like to speak about choices. As my kids were growing up, I told my children that every choice you make, good or bad choice, every choice you make has consequences. Every single one. Now, we make choices in the now, in the present, in the moment. We make choices at this moment, in the reality that we live in. Our consequences come in the future. So, when we make choices in the moment, we kind of live in a society that is instant gratification. You want to know some information, you can look it up. It's on the internet, Anything you need, you can find. You've got Amazon that you can order something and the very next day it's at your house. We are a society of instant gratification. With that comes the fact that when we're making choices in the moment, we don't always think about the consequences that are coming in the future. The problem with that is when the consequences come, good or bad, you have nobody to blame but yourself because you made that choice. But because we live in this instant gratification world, people always want to find somebody to blame. They can't take responsibility or accountability for the choices that they have made. So I always tell everybody, before you make a definite choice, think about the good and the bad that can come from it. What kind of consequences could you pay for later? And can you live with those consequences? Or will you regret those consequences? If you will regret those consequences, don't make that choice. This is common sense, people. And the truth is, my youngest son, he said to me, I don't know, he had to be 12 or 13. He came to me the one day and he said, Mom, he goes, why do they call it common sense? He goes, because it's not real common. I started laughing. I told him I loved them because when my sons came to me with these things, I simply loved that they were recognizing these things. And I wasn't necessarily having to teach them it, they were recognizing it. And that meant to me that I was teaching them how to grow and think. So I was proud when they'd say those things. And I would tell him, yeah, that's very true. Common sense isn't very common. He goes, well, I'm not calling it common sense anymore. He goes, I'm calling it uncommon sense because nobody's got any damn common sense. So it is common sense. The choices you make now have consequences. Every single choice you make has a consequence. You make the decision to change your shampoo. You could get something that you've never used before, somebody else recommended, you try it, and you get up in the morning and you use it, and it leaves your hair all frizzy, and it didn't work for you. That's your consequence. Or you could buy a shampoo that nobody recommended. You just thought, oh, this looks good. Let's try this out. And it turns out that it's made your hair very soft and manageable. That's also a consequence. So every single choice that you, I, and everybody else makes in the moment, in the now, in the present, has consequences. Every single choice. Decide if that consequence is good or bad, and then decide if you can live with that consequence, because those consequences are not necessarily going to come right away. You could get an instant consequence on certain choices, but the majority of them are future. They're a little ways out there. And when those consequences come, people want to go, oh, well, this, and this. Well, they can't say that. They can't be mad about it. They made that choice. This is what they have to pay for that consequence or for that choice. And there's a lot of people that will ask people for advice or their opinion. And then if they follow that person's advice or opinion, they will then, when the consequences come, blame it on that person. That person didn't tell you you had to do those things. You asked for their opinion or their thoughts on it. If you made the choice to listen to what that person said and follow through with that, that's still your problem. That's not the person that gave you the information or helped you with that. That's still you because you're the one who had to pull the trigger and make the choice for yourself. Nobody else forced you to make that choice but yourself. And in this society that we live in here, especially in the United States, I don't know other countries, we tend to ask our friends and our family for advice. Totally acceptable. My kids, my sons, they're grown now, are kind of my they're kind of the ones that I go to for certain things because of everybody. They know me the best, um, and they're real good at bringing me back to, hey, mom, I don't think you're thinking on the right path. Come on, you know better than that, or whatever. So I do go to my kids for a lot of different things. Um, but whoever you go to for advice, you're the one who's making the decision and the choice to follow that advice. So you can't blame that person. Oh, well, my friend, Jill down the street said, hey, you should do this, this, or this. And I do it. And it turns out horrible. And I have to pay horrible consequences for it. I can't be mad at Jill. Jill didn't tell me to do that. She gave me the advice. She told me how she'd handle it. But she didn't make the choice for me. I made that choice, so I'm the one who's going to pay the consequences. So if you run around getting everybody else's opinions and everybody else's thoughts, and then you pull the trigger on that choice to follow what they said, that's still not on them. That's 100% on you because you're the one who made the final choice. And all choices have consequences. So, with that said, your next challenge will be, and you can keep doing the challenge that I just gave you last week, especially if you learned even the littlest about it, keep going because it's going to get easier and easier, and you're going to start to see some drastic changes, and you're not going to notice that you've changed until all of a sudden one day something's going to happen, and you're going to be like, it'll be like 5, 10 minutes, maybe an hour after it happens, you'll be like, oh my God, I didn't freak out like I used to. You'll start to notice the change. Challenge for this week. I want you to smile and say hi to a complete stranger, but only if they looked at you. So if you're walking into the grocery store or into the gas station or anything else, and they look at you, you must smile and say hi and see how they respond. Majority of the time, when you do this, you will start to feel happier because you gave somebody a smile and they gave it back. And the more you do this, the more you start to realize that you'll be walking away from the first person that you said hi to, and you'll still have the smile on your face. And the next person that comes out will see your smile and be like, oh, hey, hi, how are you? Total stranger you don't know. But because you had a smile on your face, that person initiates some sort of small common courtesy discussion for a second. You respond back. You still got to smile. Go to the next one. Smile at a stranger and say hi. And watch how quickly it changes your day. And the more you do it, the more it just becomes natural. And the more you start to notice that you walk around with a smile a lot more, you walk around a lot lighter and a lot happier, and you start to notice that people do it to you, that you will be kind of minding your own business and kind of in your thoughts or whatever you're doing, and all of a sudden people will just start saying hi to you. Or you'll run into these same people at the gas station or grocery store or wherever that you've said hi to before, and then the next time they see you, they'll be like, oh, hi, how are you? Eventually, you may actually make some new friends. It's kind of exciting. This challenge that I'm giving you this week will go along with another one that I will give you next week that will expand on this challenge. So for this week, smile and say hi to strangers that look at you and see how that helps. Keep going with the other challenge. As we progress through some of these challenges, you'll start to notice uh, that you're a lot more content, that you're a lot more relaxed, um, that you tend to get into a different state of mind, and then you start to notice that it's just a normal everyday thing that you're in it. But there's quite a few challenges that we'll have to go through to get there, and you have to keep working on these. You're not going to have every single day where you're going to be up for it. I mean, a lot of these these challenges I was starting before my mom got sick and passed. Um, after my mom passed and I came back out here to Phoenix, um, I did nothing but go to work and go home. Going to work took a lot out of me. It really made me I felt spent at the end of the day. Um, because I would smile and say hi and thank you to the people in the restaurants, and I would do the same thing with customers and whatever. And that just took a lot out of me because I was in the thick of the beginning of the grieving process. And by the time I'd get home, I didn't want anything to do with anybody. I just wanted to kind of chill at home with the animals and just not deal with anything. Uh, but these challenges, I had started doing them before mom got sick. So I decided that I was going to keep doing them. And when I was out in public, I did keep practicing these challenges. And it did make a slight difference. But grief is something that unless you've lost a parent, a child, or a spouse, you really have no idea what grief is. Mourning the loss of a relationship is a horrible thing, yes, but that person's still alive and out there. Mourning the loss of somebody that you're never going to get to see again or to have part of your life ever again, that's a whole different level of grief that you won't understand until you're there. Um, so, your challenge this week is to smile and say hi to anybody who looks at you while you're walking into the grocery store, going to get gas, or whatever else. I can't tell you how many times I stop and get gas. I probably have to fill up my tank every other day with doing DoorDash. I can't tell you how many times I'll be pumping gas and somebody on the other side will look at me as I get out of my car and I just smile at them, say hi. And sometimes it starts a conversation. Sometimes they just smile and say hi back at me. Um, but it does make a difference. So I look forward to your thoughts and progress on this week's challenge, and feel free to drop me a comment or go to the community section and let me know how your last week's challenge went, and let me know how you're progressing on this week's challenge. With that said, don't forget choices. All choices have consequences. Whether it's a good consequence or a bad consequence, it still has consequences. And every choice that you make in the present, in the now, is going to have the consequence in the future. And you can't blame anybody who gives you their their advice or their thoughts. Because if you choose to take that advice or those thoughts, it's still on you. So let's start taking some accountability and responsibility. Maybe we can make the world that we live in and the people that we're around a little bit nicer and more kind. So see you in a day or two, guys. Have a great time. Have fun with this challenge. Because honestly, there's some people out there that are extremely nice. I mean, you start to smile and say hi to strangers. You get some strange comments from some people, and I will tell you this right now: that old people, once you smile and say hi to a lot of old people, they're going to throw a joke at you or they're going to throw something at you. You're going to walk away laughing. And the more you do this, the other people that you're walking past and they see you like that, they want what they want that happiness that you're exuding. So have fun with the challenge, and I look forward to hearing about how it helped all of you guys. Night.